Okay, welcome everybody. We've got, I'm Alan, I'm based out of Germany, and we've got Tyler on the other side of the globe, based out of the United States. We're just waiting for a few people to join us. Maybe you can let us know where you're from in this wonderful world. Drop a comment in the chat. Okay, so like I said, I'm Alan Miles, Senior Product Manager at airfocus. airfocus is a modular product management platform that allows you to flexibly shape your workflows from discovery to delivery. It's everything from feedback and insights through prioritization and alignment to roadmaps and OKRs. It's one unified system for all of your product management jobs. And today, I'm joined by Tyler Huish, who, like I said, is based out of Salt Lake City in Utah, United States. Tyler, you're the Product Experience Director at Extra Space Storage. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so welcome everyone. Glad to be here. I'm Product Experience Director with Extra Space Storage. We're a self-storage operator in the United States. We've got a product team here consisting of 5 product managers, 6 product analysts or product owners, and then we have some additional members with supporting our products. We call them the product operations group. I've been with Extra Space for, I looked it up, we use Workday, 12 years, 7 months, and 25 days as of today. So it's always fun to show by the day. And I've started with Extra Space as a store manager, believe it or not. So I lived on site in an apartment above all the storage units. I did not have a shotgun and a guard dog type, which might be stereotypical of self-storage. And just worked my way up. District manager, I had 30 stores. It was over at one point, and worked my way into the corporate world and into product development. So that's a little bit background for me. In that time, I lived in California, Arizona, and now here in Utah.
Wow, I love that story. It's so fascinating to see all the different entry paths to product management. The fact that you really came in from sort of the ground up in that business and you've been there for so long. What an interesting story. I'm looking forward to learning about your insights.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm wondering, I think we have some poll questions today, and I'm wondering if we want to open up with those. Okay, the first one is, what are the biggest hurdles you face with product prioritization in your current role? Please let us know. Okay, that's looking fairly universal so far. Oh, more votes coming through. Okay, interesting. Are there any more polls to come? I thought we had another one lined up. Let's just see. Here we go. Okay, and for the audience, how familiar are you with using product management tools like airfocus? Somewhat, nothing in particular. Interesting. All right, I think that was the last poll for the moment. And yeah, look, like I said, I'm really looking forward to this chat. So why don't we get stuck in? It's time for our first question, Tyler. All right, Tyler, can you describe the Excel-based tools that your team was previously using for product management? I mean, it's quite a familiar story coming from somewhere. I mean, the whole internet or SaaS world is essentially trying to replace email, calendars, and kind of some sort of spreadsheet. And that's where you started. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, been with the product team for about 7 or 8 years now, and we used Jira so the Atlassian suite for how we manage our tickets, development work. But outside of that, everything was very manual. So Excel was used a lot in communicating with stakeholders, a lot of manual processing, copying and pasting. And the moment you moved it to Excel, it was now out of date. The big one that we used there, we'll talk about, was the priority matrix. So we started that in Excel and eventually evolved from there. The challenges we were having was stakeholders didn't understand why we were working on what we were working on in the order that it was being done. It was hard to visualize that. It wasn't until I did some additional product management certification training, and that was through the 280 group, but they introduced some tools to use like the priority matrix. And that one stuck with me. I really liked that idea, so I thought I'd give that one a try. And I guess I should clarify, when we were introducing this, I was a product manager at the time over our main point of sale system. And if you can imagine, everything goes through this system. It's kind of the backbone of the organization. And so every department had an opinion, and every one had something that needed to be worked on. So it was hard to try and say no and then explain why. So using a tool to help prioritize that and compare things apples to apples is kind of why we got into this priority matrix. And of course, it started manually in Excel.
Yeah, I mean, Excel is a very powerful tool. I'm not sure if it's purpose built for product management though. So can you tell us a little bit about the benefits and challenges of this manual process?
Yeah, so first couple challenges, I'll start with there. When I introduced this tool concept, and very manual first, it was new to everyone. No one had ever seen that or thought of it. And I made the mistake of catching the VP of product, my boss, off guard. I didn't run it by him first. So if you learn anything from today, is never surprise your boss with a new tool. And when I introduced it, there was some skepticism at first. Kind of the thought was, well, this is just another tool that will probably fail after a couple attempts. Another challenge is, of course, it was manual. So we were updating things in Jira, and then in Confluence, and then in Excel. Third challenge was we were focusing on order of priorities at this point, but we still couldn't talk about or commit to start and end dates. Still a challenge today, but even though we were prioritizing the work, we could tell you what order we were going to work on it, but we could never tell you when we would be able to deliver it to you. But some of the benefits, the first one is it forced everyone to be honest with their requests. When you throw everything together and you're scoring everything in the same manner, you remove a lot of the bias from it. And so the stakeholders and us in product management, we had to be honest that what we thought was the greatest idea was maybe fifth in line instead of number one. The second is it challenged us to question our priorities. What was really important for one group was not important at all for another. And so to bring those together and discuss and help force rank those was really helpful. The third benefit is it forced us to focus on value rather than what I feel was important, or I think this would reach and 50% of our customers and would be really important. When we focused on value, that changed the shift of priorities of work. So examples of that, and let me see if I can pull that up here, if that's okay. This is very manual Excel. You can see here we built, and I do apologize, the actual items are hidden. I plan to show them, and then I got my hand slapped by our internal our investor relations team. They're like, you can't show this stuff. We haven't released some of it to market yet. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm sorry. So that's why they're hidden here. But you could see we had a couple different columns and then some force rankings, what we did. And if things were clustered together, and I'll show, we could adjust the weighting of each of these items. But for our vertical metrics, we focused on 2 items, development costs, and we use story points here for that. And then that would lift things up on the matrix. So let me see, sorry, it's not here. So that would move things up on the matrix. And then risk of delay was another item. So think of legal compliance issues or missed opportunities. If we couldn't get to market within 6 months, we'd probably miss the boat. So that would increase the risk of delay. And then as well as blockers. If I'm in the way of someone else, that would improve or increase the risk of delay. Then on our horizontal metrics, those were our customer values, both internal and external. So think of internal for us was revenue driving, cost savings, employee satisfaction, number of our users that would use that feature. And then external value, that for us, that was percent of customers impacted, customer satisfaction scores, as well as competitive advantage, if we could get that to market before one of our competitors. So that was kind of the benefits and challenges, and hopefully that helps explain a little bit more too on how we were scoring these items.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. You're already, I guess, getting a lot of value there. I'm curious, because it was such a transparent process and you had a fairly sophisticated system set up, what prompted the shift from that Excel setup into airfocus?
Yeah, the biggest one, of course, was how manual it was. I think we all can say we get sick of updating Google Sheets or Excel documents and trying to keep them up to date. So that was the big one. We also went through several tools already, trying to see what could help. AHA was one of those that we've tried. And I don't know about you, but managing out of PowerPoint and Excel is just not a good way to manage things. So there was even times where, like, my boss, okay, please go update 3 documents so that they're somewhat current. And I was like, oh, that's going to take hours. And then let's have a meeting just to update our documents. So we were losing productivity time because we had to update in so many places. So that was the main driver of moving to a tool. And airfocus is one we eventually settled on out of a couple that we were evaluating. I know I probably stressed airfocus out, guys, because it took, I think it was a 12-month process. You guys were very patient with us as we worked through that.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, the product management, essentially, there's so much people management in there, right? And when you've got manual processes, it just makes it that much harder. So how has using airfocus reduced some of those manual efforts you were spending before?
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit of what it looks like for us. The number one was integration. So we needed a tool that could integrate with the tools that we're using, Jira being the number one. So with that, we can now have everything updated in near real time. We have product managers, as I said before, and then we have product analysts, which very similar to maybe product owner in other organizations. So we wanted our product managers in airfocus, keeping them out of the weeds. So we do things at an epic level in airfocus. That's what we score on the priority matrix. Then our PAs, product analysts or product owners, they're in Jira. They're more in the weeds. They're breaking that epic down into individual stories. So having the 2 separate tools helped us focus on our responsibilities without overlapping too much there. The other piece was the ability to visualize. So here's what priority matrix for us looks like in one example. And this probably helps explain a little bit more of what I was talking about. So value shifts things to the right, and development cost shifts things up. Risks of delay forces things back down again. And so for us, the quick wins are on the bottom. Then from there up above, it's probably going to cost a little more to build, but still has just as much value. Those are our strategic items that we should consider next. On the bottom left, we could then say these aren't going to provide as much value, so we should only build these if the business requires them. Blockers could come in here, say on a platform level, Epic, that's enabling it for another product. The value for us is going to be low, but the value for that other product would be high. And so we would want to prioritize those. And then the top left, that's like no man's land for us. Like we don't go there unless we absolutely have to. And so that helped us. For us in prioritizing, quadrant 3, or the bottom left, was actually what we worked on first. We would prioritize there first because those were the absolute necessary for the business. And then after we identified those, we would shift to the right to work on those quick wins, those high value items. So that's kind of the order and how we did things. And we could visualize that. So I know this is a slide, but here you could hover over each circle and that would show you what Epic it is. And then we could open it and talk about it as a group with our stakeholders. In Excel, we were working in 2 dimensions, x-axis, y-axis. Here in airfocus, it allowed us to shift revenue to a 3rd dimension, which is the size of the circle. So we could see customer value, we like it, our users would like it, that would shift things right. And then the size of the circle could be the revenue impact. So if I had 2 really close to each other, the bigger circle makes more sense to work on. So those are some of the things. And then we could, it's not shown here, but airfocus then allowed us to show like a Gantt chart type of view or roadmap view. So we could then show when we were going to start on something and when it would be finished. So yeah, that was super helpful for us in removing a lot of those manual processes, because if someone updated it in Jira, it would automatically update in airfocus. Or if the product manager wanted to say, hey, we're moving this back in priority, that would immediately update in Jira as well for our engineering teams and our product analysts.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I love the way you explain those quadrants and the dimensions. That just brings another level or layer to it that is really hard to achieve in Excel. Okay, I think we actually have a question from the audience. Can we bring that up on screen? Okay, question is, was there a rubric on how you evaluate those criteria, such as external value? Drew, what do you think of that?
Yeah, so great question. Yes, so I know, let me see if I can just pull it up really quick. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I can't show, but I can speak to it here. So first, like development costs, that one was easy, right? That's just story points. And the higher the story points, the higher it moved up. Risk of delay, we would use a score 1 through 5. And you could do, to make sure circles didn't overlap each other, if they both came in at 2, we would make one 1.9 and the other one 2.1, right? To kind of move things around. 1 on risk of delay meant there's no rush. It can be done at any time. 5 meant if we don't do it immediately, the company will be in trouble or we'll miss out on an opportunity. In self-storage, we do foreclosure for customers who unfortunately can't pay. And working in 36 states in the United States, they each have their own foreclosure laws. And Congress, state Senate, House, they can get together and pass a law. And next thing you know, you have to quickly update your system to meet those requirements. So those would be like a 5, like we got to get this now, or we're going to have lawyers knocking on our door. On internal customer value and external, I guess to share, this is important. The priority matrix should not be completely quantitative, hard data, right? There's going to be some give and take here. It's more of just helping visualize how one might be more valuable than the other, rather than saying this will make us $1.5 million versus this one $1 million, right? It's just more of help visualizing. So on the internal customer value, we had 1 through 5, and we would break those into categories of revenue or cost savings. So for your organization, that could be tens of thousands of dollars. Larger organizations could be millions of dollars. And then on the external customer value, the main one we used there was % of customers impacted. So if I was working on automatic payments, we have a high easy pay sign up with our organization. So that would have been 70, 80% of our customers. So that would have been a 5 for us. More than half of our customers got a 5 automatically. If it was less than 5% of our customers, like in foreclosure process, that would get a 1 or a half of a point because it was very small. So hopefully that helps with giving some examples on how we scored on each of those columns.
Yeah, great stuff. You really went into a lot of detail of different measures there. And speaking of those different rubrics, like how did the flexibility of being able to sort of customize those, the criteria and the weights within the platform help? Because it really sounds like you've sweated each one there, what each score means, what types of things you're taking into account.
Yeah, so great question. The flexibility to be able to customize was one of the great deciding factors on using this tool versus others that we looked into. Airfocus does give us the ability to set how we want those each to be scored and then how they're weighted against each other. Now that's great as an organization, but even better is those can be customized per product. Because overall, we're just trying to get all of our work to spread evenly across 4 quadrants so we can narrow down what we should be working on. Now, if I have a product here, say our mobile application, it's 15, 20% penetration right now. We're just rolling it out. I can't use the same % of customers or revenue impact scores on that product as I would our platform, which all payments come processing through. So the matrix that they have, they can change their rubric to evenly spread those out. So maybe they're talking in tens of thousands of dollars versus millions of dollars. And a 5 on external customer value may be 10,000 of our users or customers rather than our 1.3 million customers that we have today. So that was really helpful because overall we're just trying to spread them out so that we can better score. I do want to share, we had a team that did this and everything went into the bottom right quadrant. I said, okay, well, that's not going to help. So how are you going to spread that out? So they had to adjust and make even more finite to pull things out. And no one liked seeing their babies get moved left, but it was necessary in order to get priorities. The other thing is we love the third dimension. We couldn't get that with Excel. So seeing the size of circle change based upon revenue for us was a big win. So when circles overlapped each other, the bigger circle was the natural winner.
Amazing, good stuff. Okay, so wow, you've done so much already, not just with Excel, but with what's capable within airfocus. What's next? What's next for your team's approach there, sort of in visualizing and prioritizing this work?
Yeah, so I'll pull up some examples again right here. This was great. So first we need to get our product managers and our stakeholders for us, a stakeholder is usually a head of a department or someone that they appoint to within their department to represent their business needs. We need them to get comfortable using this tool. So that's kind of where we're at. We've formally been on the tool for several months now, under a year. And so we need to make sure it works for our stakeholders. Flexibility here is we can create a custom view that works for them, so they're not getting lost in the weeds. So that's number one, getting people comfortable. So we've got the list of our epics, making sure people understand how things line up here on the priority matrix. I think this one right here, each marker is colored by quarter we plan to work on. And that may not be determined yet by the team, so they could change that to be flexible to color by status that it's in, or color by the theme or business objective. You can kind of see that on the right there. We've got some business objectives being called out. But the second challenge is now keeping dates current. So it's not shown here, and I do apologize, I should have included a roadmap view. But since we're still in this mentality of I'm just going to work them in order of priority, we are still not good at communicating start and end dates. So we do have an estimation tool. Some of you have probably heard of cone of uncertainty. The further out something goes, or the less we know about it, the completion date becomes very wide, and the more you work on it, it becomes more narrow. So these start dates should be fairly confident and comfortable being able to set, but the completion date, depending on the size of the effort, will be changing drastically. And so we want to make sure that our product managers and our product analysts are keeping those dates current. Otherwise, our stakeholders will log in and go, hey, you're still working on this, but the end date's in the past. So that's been a challenge for us that we got to keep working on. The third is cross-product prioritization. So our product managers right now are thinking about my product, and rightfully so, doing the best things for the customer and the best things for the organization. Where we need to evolve is thinking about how my product impacts the company as a whole. And some things I want to work on may not be as important as something in another area, a different product. And so I need to help support that initiative. So you can see here with this matrix, pretty straightforward. There's probably 25 items here to prioritize. Well, with airfocus, we have shared workspaces that pulls all together. So we have 5 PMs across 9 products. Some of you probably fall in your chair. We're not following all the Scrum and Agile methodologies. But there's, it looks like this isn't exactly right, but sorry, I had a different screenshot where it showed all the different products together, and now there's 60 dots on the matrix. And first, that's completely overwhelming for product development to manage, as well as for our stakeholders to understand. Now, visualizing that many dots on a matrix, I think is good to show our stakeholders that we are working on so many things. And now we can start having the conversation to go, we would much rather be excellent at a few items rather than okay at a lot of items. And so then we can start dropping things off the priorities and say, these really should wait, so that we can hit these 5 or 6 out of the park instead of 10 to 12 and introduce lots of bugs and complexity and confuse the customers because we're not chasing the same things together across all of our products. So those are the 3. Kind of recap again, there is getting our PMs and stakeholders comfortable using the tool, keeping dates current on our Epic development, and then evolving into this cross-product prioritization space that what I want to work on may need to wait because there's a higher company objective. That's it. That's the one. Thank you. Yeah, it gets really messy really fast. So you would look at this and I have no idea what I need to work on next. And so yeah, that's the piece. Last piece on that prioritization is then tying dependencies together so that we can see those. So I could see, sorry, that what I need to work on is blocked by 2 other teams work first. And I can communicate that clearly to stakeholders and then visualize that team A is here and then team B will take on, and then us, we come in the end. And that's why we can't work on it for 3 months. So those are all super helpful using the tool. So just to evolve into more how airfocus can help us with company-wide collaboration. We were able to, with airfocus, we can create custom fields and we can map them to fields in Jira, or we can just manually enter them in airfocus. I think one that's really helpful for us is we created this initiative label, and then we can share all the different initiatives across all the products. And then they can just add that to each of their epics, and then they automatically show up on the roadmap together. So for example, we have a project called Dark Star. We can now see what each team is working on for us to reach that initiative before the year's over.
Okay, wow, you really covered a lot of ground there. But I mean, I'm just so impressed by, you can create such complex diagrams and they're all powered by numbers, but underneath it, there's so much people management and that collaboration is so key. So can you share a bit of an example, I guess, a specific example where you've been able to collaborate with others and other teams have been able to make better decision-making, perhaps even across teams?
Yeah, so I've got 2 examples I could share for the most part because they are in the market already, public. So one is more of a technical standardization. So I think a lot of people could relate to that. Less customer value and more of just making our systems work better. That one was with, we call it business hours. So we have a central location where all of our hours of operations are stored. So we have separate hours for when someone's staffed in the office, when you can interact with a kiosk at a store, when you can call our call center, and when you can access our properties to get to your units. That's a lot. And how do I present all of that data information to the customer to where they can understand it? Well, we've got a mobile app. We have an online customer portal. We have our website. We have customers walking in store, print at our stores, and we have our kiosks that I can also walk up to and interact with. And each one of those was displaying these hours differently or not displaying hours at all. So although this probably isn't going to create a lot of value that we could measure, we feel pretty confident that if we are consistent in how we communicate with our customers, they'll be more satisfied over time. So we used that example and showed all the dependencies of first we have to get everyone to consume these new standard hours. We needed to get designs to make sure we label them all the same and they display correctly for all our customers, so that whether I walk up to a kiosk, I pull up the app on my phone, or I go online to our website, I can see when someone will be at the store and when I can call this phone number and when I can access my unit at the storage facility. So that was a great example of being able to show that. If we didn't have that ability, our stakeholders, I think, would be confused. Like our business owner over the mobile app wouldn't understand why we need to work on that compared to all the other things we want to work on. So that was a good example. of where you can argue for things that are probably more left, but have a technical debt, scalability, performance items, because those are just as important as chasing dollars out in the market. And then the other example is Project Darkstar. It has relate to our move-in flow and trying to simplify that. There was a push for this from our marketing department that this is our next big thing. We're very passionate about this and we're going to do it. And then it took, I was product manager at the time over our point of sale, our platform that is the back end of all of this, and saying, well, let's figure out what all the dependencies are first. And it went from we're going to do it right now, and you just going to have to meet us there because we're going to get everyone to agree with us that that's what we're going to do, to reality setting in when we showed, okay, this is great, but here's everything else that has to be done. And it's probably going to take us 6 to 7 months to do that. And all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, okay, so maybe this is not the biggest thing that we should be chasing right now because it's going to be expensive to get us there and take time. So sorry, those are a little vague, but hopefully that gives some examples of how visualizing that, tying those things together can really be helpful.
Not at all. Quite illuminating. I think the common thread there was like really just connecting the dots between stakeholders and different teams. So not only they could see their perspective, but other teams' perspective. Amazing stuff. Okay, at this stage, I really want to invite the audience to ask any questions you've got, probably for Tyler, but also for myself, if that's helpful. I think we have one question already from Michael to Tyler. And the question is, how often do you reevaluate your items? For example, it might not be urgent now, but maybe in a few months. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, okay, so that's a great question. So we are mostly working in quarters as best we can. That's what we're trying to do right now. And then we try to not interrupt that as much as possible. This public knowledge, though, last year we announced a merger between Extra Space Storage and Life Storage. So two of the largest combining together. So we had our roadmaps. We were ready. We were excited. Our CEO said, we're going to focus on fundamentals. And then 2 weeks later, he said, we're buying this company. And so our roadmaps were completely thrown out, and that's what we focused on. So that's an extreme. Like, we've got to be ready and willing to pivot and adjust and say, okay, all of this is now waiting as we move all of our stores that we're acquiring onto one platform, one system. And that provided the most value for us over these other things that we were going to chase. But when we don't have disruptors like that, there's going to be small things that come up. Full transparency here, because hopefully this helps other people watching here will understand that it's okay that our platform, it's probably now, after 6 years in the market, we're probably at 60-40 between feature development and stability, bugs, technical debt. A lot of people talk about this 80-20. Someday, in a perfect world, we'll get to 80-20. We have other products that are very mature, simpler products. They have fewer features that are in that 80-20 range. So when it comes to evaluating those priorities, even here, it's probably weekly, unfortunately. We'd like to see that probably monthly more, but stakeholders, we have one-on-ones with them. Some we meet every other week, others we meet monthly, and they'll identify something that's going on that we now need to evaluate. Did we build something wrong? Do we need to make an adjustment? And then throw it on the matrix and see, is this worth interrupting our current priorities or not? So I would say ideally you're in a monthly cadence of doing that. But we release, I think every single one of our products is at least releasing at least once a week. Some newer ones are in real-time releases. So once it passes our validation tests, it goes into the market. And so that might vary on how often you're releasing functionality into the marketplace. Hopefully that gives some guidance there.
Yeah, I would think so. It sounds like you've got quite the robust sort of way of dealing with that. And I think it's all about, you can't control when new information comes to hand. So you therefore can't control what cadence, I guess, you're reacting to that. We have another question. What advice, Tyler, would you give to other companies considering a shift from, I guess, traditional prioritization methods, maybe using Excel, for example, to a tool like airfocus?
Okay, so for us, shifting to airfocus was more of, we have the tools and the methodology. Now, how can we simplify that process? So that was a little easier for us to just go and find something that could do what we're already doing and make it easier. So airfocus gives us the priority matrix, it gives us road mapping, and it gives us cross-team dependencies. And fairly new is OKRs, objectives and key results. And so we're expanding into that, and we're going to move that from other tool we're using into airfocus. So I guess it's find some tools that work, because you may have pushback that you want to buy a tool to prove a tool, and that might be a hard sell. So find a process, a methodology that would help. Priority matrix works for us. There's others out there. Weighted shortest job first, Rice, there's some others. Moscow is pretty popular. And then take that process and then you can apply it into the tool. Because think of airfocus as almost a blank slate that you can customize it to meet your business needs. And that was the biggest selling point for us, is I didn't have to make our prioritization process change to meet airfocus. Airfocus adjusted to meet what we were already doing. So find a tool, get that implemented, and then build it into an automated flow like airfocus.
Yeah, I love that. You can start in a lo-fi way and just sort of take to the next level incrementally.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have some more airfocus centric questions. One is around, I guess, in general, we have so many tools. It all feels very disjointed throughout the organization. That's a familiar story. Does this airfocus, I presume, connect with other applications tools such as ServiceNow? ServiceNow specifically, no, but many other tools. And in a way, it's a good way to kind of demote, if you like, and centralize some of that activity or information from those tools into a single source of truth, or as we like to call it, airfocus, a bit of a home for product management. So we can bring in things from Jira, Intercom, Salesforce. Have a look on the website. There's a dozen or so integrations at the moment, and we're adding more and more feedback type integrations, as well as sort of development or delivery type integrations. So I totally hear about this pain point about disjointed, not only communication, but also information and having that source of truth. What I personally really love about airfocus, because not only do I work on the product, I use it day by day to work on the product, is just how much of a single source of truth it can be for an organization, just to bring together all this information. Okay, and there's another question about reporting capabilities. Are there reporting capabilities? What types of reports? Yeah, excitingly, this has been a sort of a new area that we've been dipping our toes in, and we have a reporting feature in beta at the moment. At the moment, we've been focusing a lot on sort of activity-based reporting. So when an item, let's say that's an epic or a task, is created, its completion time, and just some other measurements that are familiar to anyone using airfocus that are existing fields. And you can just track any of those over certain time periods and see the trend. And it's just great for, personally, I like to use it as, it can determine what bugs we've solved in what period, or you can look up what are the common feedback requests by label and themes. There's lots of different ways you can chop it. I think it's very powerful, and we're planning to invest more in reporting soon. Okay, I understand that's maybe the questions we've got at this stage. So I might move on. It's been an amazing conversation. Tyler, thanks so much for going into so much detail there. I really appreciated all the explanations of the different rubrics and especially the stories around dealing with all the different stakeholders. I'm trying to think to summarize some of the key insights from the discussion. Maybe I can ask you for yours. For me, a few things stuck out, and that was how much of product management is still bogged down in manual processes, if you like. And I guess the value of rubrics and getting those right or being able to tweak those. And customizing the whatever you're using, if you're using the priority ratings within airfocus, customizing those to meet your needs. But for me, a really strong theme there was about, I guess, using these tools, not just for product management for yourself as a product manager, but also as a communication tool for the rest of the business. So whether that's letting other stakeholders know how you arrived at a conclusion or communicating your decisions or the sequencing of those decisions seems really important. So it's not just product management, it's people management. Tyler, can you tell me some of your insights you got out of today's discussion?
Yeah, so the wonderful thing, if you're manual or you're just in Jira or just in Excel, you're going to have lots of meetings with stakeholders to try and get them up to date. And you're going to regurgitating a lot of information as you meet with each individual. If you can move them into referencing a tool, then and give them access to it, they can start serving themselves. So saying, rather than giving them a fish, teach them how to fish. And you got to break that mentality of, I don't need to meet with you. You don't have to chat me every time you have a question. You can answer it and then say, and I grabbed it here in airfocus. Here's the link again, back to where you can find that. And then it gives them a space to make a comment, and then you can follow up on that. They can see our value statement, right? Every epic is telling a story, and it's not just metrics on, we want to make more money, so we're going to build this, right? We focus it on our customers have this desire, and they're willing to pay us if we can give them this type of functionality. So I think that's kind of the advice I'd give in that area is give these people a place to see and visualize what's going on. And we're only using half of the functionality that's available in the tool. There's other ways that we can give our stakeholders as well as our customers access to see what we're working on and give us feedback on if they like that or not.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so we actually have another question for you, Tyler. How do you get the various enhancements into your system? Do users enter them directly? Oh, I know how to answer this from a product perspective, but I'd love to hear how you're doing it with your company.
Yeah, I'll share mine, and then there's airfocus does some things that we're not using yet. So some of our products are internal facing. Our platforms, we have a sales tool for our call agents, so they're not customer facing. So a lot of that comes directly from our stakeholder feedback. We then get designs together, prototypes, and then put that back to our users to give us feedback on whether that would work or not. So that's nice because it's pretty efficient, pretty simple, and you have a captive audience. For our mobile app, for our online customer portal, those product managers have to interview customers. So I think right now we're pretty heavy survey based, but what airfocus could do is they have a portal that we'd like to test out is we could put some ideas we're focusing on and then let them vote on it and provide feedback. And that would really help us get a more accurate value on external customer value. To bring that back to our stakeholders to say, we would rather work on this because our customers are voting high on it than this item, which we thought would have been more valuable. So that'll be new for us, and we want to explore into it. So mostly for now, it's surveys and internal stakeholder input still.
Great. I'm excited to see if you try that out, because it's actually quite a popular approach we've found with airfocus customers, essentially whether they're using the portal to trigger a form, or the Forms app, which is within airfocus directly, which goes into an inbox view, and then you can sort those items, create insights, add them to items. And it kind of creates a big full loop of product feedback that's both feedback on things that have been delivered and back into discovery. It's pretty amazing. Okay, well, I think we're almost in closing time. So I'd really want to just stop at this point and just thanks, Tyler. You've been amazing. I think it's been so interesting to learn about the specifics of the prioritization use case at Extra Space Storage. Thanks for going into so much detail there and sharing all your wins and challenges. I also really want to thank the audience who've been asking some amazing questions and just even following along. Okay, if you'd like to stay in touch or learn more about this topic, there's a number of ways. You can take a look at the airfocus websites, and we've also got the resources tab where you can check the latest guides, reports, events, and websites. And I think we actually have our next event coming up, if we could show that. It's a fireside chat around supercharging your product roadmap with Roman Pichler. That will be with our CEO and CPO, Malte Schultz. That's coming up in 10 days' time. Hope to see you there. Again, Tyler, thanks so much. You've been amazing. Any closing thoughts for our audience?
Just thanks for those who stayed up late for this, those who took time out of their workday, and those who are just waking up to be here. It was awesome. I'm grateful for the privilege. Please reach out even to myself. I think we have my info as well. If you have questions or concerns, it may be a little small there, but happy to answer any questions as well. To share what we did, so you don't have to make the same mistakes, and hopefully jumpstart some things on your side and within your organization. So thank you.
Amazing. That's really kind of you to offer, Tyler. Again, thanks everyone. This has been a really interesting discussion. I look forward to the next one.